In the endgame, there are a lot of tricky, trappy things you need to know in order to play on a high level. And today we're going to see one from the recent tournament in Vacancy, or it's ongoing. I don't know if it's finished when we show this video on GM Talks. Anyway, this is a great trick by Polina, Shuvalova, and something worth remembering that you should keep in your arsenal as a secret weapon you can use in your games. And we're gonna finish the video with two examples of typical Rook endings with a little bit of tricky, trappy things you need to know in order to play well. So, are you ready? Let's go! Polina is white, and this is the Sicilian. We have a lot of Sicilians on GM Talks. It leads to fascinating chess. This is the dragon variation. And this is, of course, the sharp Yugoslav attack, especially if white goes bishop c4. We'll have very sharp positions, but also castle is interesting. But Marc, Andria, Maurizzi, who is, I think, the youngest French grandmaster ever, is playing the so-called Dragendorf, which is a sort of pull together the knight off and the dragon. And I don't like this variation for black. I think it's extremely dangerous to mix these systems. Black by fianchettoing the bishop here, he is weakening the king side and should be play as actively as possible. So I don't think this luxury move like a6 and so on is sensible, but it's interesting. It leads to very interesting fights, and this is kind of a cool way to prevent this move that was threatening. This is one of white's plan, is to exchange this bishop here on g7 and follow up with this. So h5 prevents both plans. But this, of course, makes sense to put the bishop here. It's somehow, I don't really understand why, but it seems like when you play h5, this square has been weakened somewhat. And of course, this has definitely been weakened. And here white plays an interesting move, because she does not have to castle queen side. She can also castle king side. So she plays a4, preventing b5. And I kind of like this thing. Looks natural. And here white completely switches plans and go back to a bishop c4 system where he castle king side, and she plays f4 before black gets this, and so he's able to put the knight here. Knight c6, and one move you could argue for here is knight f3. It's possible. Instead, Polina just played a3. By the way, black is not very happy to have played this move right now. It does not look good. I think I kind of like this move, knight f3, due to this square here. That is, the knight here will be extremely annoying, and it will be very hard to get rid of it. But she prefers to not allow this move. So a3, castle, and here I would definitely, I think I'll put knight f3. I really like that system, especially with the bishop here. The bishop makes no sense here unless you can take and play bishop c6 or b5. Okay, but the castle cannot be bad, and still black is a little bit unhappy having played h5. And this position is definitely in white's favor, I think. Next move could be f5, and then we really see that h5 was not a funny thing to have played. So black plays this, trying to exchange as many pieces as possible. Still, white has a nice initiative here after f5. It does look a little bit anti-positional, giving away this square here, but this is a serious problem that this pawn is so weak. So, and king h7, just avoiding the trip here. Maybe you can take an f7 sometimes here. just plays very simple moves. Rook f1. And of course, black would love to play this move, but it's not possible. And if he moves the queen, then comes rook f7, and it's all over immediately. So knight f6 is forced. e5, getting rid of the weak pawn and sort of highlighting the weakness on here and here. And of course, black is seriously in trouble here. But he's fighting on. Knight d5, putting more pressure on. And the bishop here is much stronger than the knight. Not giving up yet. And slowly getting back. And here black is probably would not like to play this move. But white is threatening this move here. And what to do then? So h4 looks forced. Problem is something like this, and now this one is hanging. But black has done a great job of defending this very, very unpleasant position. Anyway, it was not the middle game we were after. It was this kind of position, and that was a nice little move. Queen d4. I think rook a7 was a huge blunder because this move is nice to get in, threatening this move, right? And here comes queen f2, and what to do now? So he's losing a pawn. Still not so simple. And e4, strong move. And black is getting counterplay. And this is the rook ending. White plays king f3. And I think black has done extremely well to get to this position. This was a kind of impressive by Marc, that he managed to get this from that position. So this rook ending is of course better for white, but it's and it's not winning for in any way, and you can fight here. And this is the interesting move. This is by the way, a terrible mistake. We're going to see that in a moment. Anyway, this position is kind of interesting. If black just plays something like this move, isn't that a draw? I think so. It's probably is a draw. The rook is very active, the king is very active, and you just need to exchange everything on the queen side, which is not so easy, by the way. But it should be possible to make a draw in this kind of position, I think. But black was a little bit too eager to get this drawn position drawn, so he played a bad move, b5. It looks very natural. The idea is extremely simple. If white takes, you just go here, and you go here, and eventually the a and the b4 pawns will be exchanged, and white cannot win with 2 pawns versus 1 on the king side. So easy draw, right? There's just one problem. After b5, rook checks. It's a good move. King d7. Here white has a great endgame trick, and I suggest you try and pause the video and see if you can find it. It's based on a very important endgame knowledge. It's based on, of course, on some tactics, that a rook belongs behind the passed pawn, sort of pushing it forward like a cannon. And black was not well prepared for this b5, because after this move, he's lost. And that is a typical trick, but not so easy to see. And the thing is that white will, with this maneuver, will manage to get his rook behind the passed pawn, and at the same time pushing his own pawn and stopping the opponent's pawn. And you can take a long look at this, and it's I find it very fascinating that this position is just totally lost suddenly, and he gives check. G5 doesn't matter, and this of course is the idea. The rook is threatening here, and of course when the rook comes to b4, then this pawn will be extremely dangerous. And b3 is of course the way to save it, but after this move, white is threatening the pawn and covering this pawn, and b2, and here just be careful. King f3 is safe, because there was a trick here that you should really be careful about. When the pawn is not very far away, then this is threatening. But after this move here, black resigned. Something like this is just it's just lost. Nothing to do here. This p pawn will never be dangerous, so this rook is in the perfect position to attack b2 and push the b pawn. So great trick by Polina Shuvalova, the rising star in women's chess from Russia. She had an excellent result in the European Championship, and I think she has a great future. It does look good for Russia on the women's side. Okay, let's see a little bit more endgame tactics, because I think you got your fingers wet now. You are ready to learn a little bit more. So let's get to the next thing here. And here it is black to move. So we will flip the board. And can he draw? No, he cannot draw. So let's see. Maybe we should take the other one first. So remember this position. Black cannot draw, so we take the next one, and there it is, and black can draw. How is that possible? One simple little square and makes all the difference. Okay, let's see how black draws here. He gives check. King has to stay near the pawn, and he gives check again, and gives check again, and check again, and whenever the king approaches the rook, it goes here, and winning the pawn here. So that was easy. Okay, so you know this now. There is no way to it doesn't matter what happens here, because you always just give checks, blah blah blah, and so on, and then go to the e file to stop the pawn. Also, if something like this, then this is already easy, right? Okay. So what about here? What's the problem? Problem is this move, check, king, and white is now threatening to queen, winning. Okay. Or we could go here, so it doesn't matter. And threatening to queen, check, forced, attacking the rook, winning a tempi. And the problem for black here is that something like this is always losing, because this one is coming. So, but what about this move? How can white exploit this in any sensible way? Is there a trick? If you go back, then we'll have the position that's drawn from before. But it's white's to move here. It's not black. So what do you do? Can you see it? We'll flip the board. So you are white in this position, and it's a typical endgame trick. One you have to know, have to master. What do you do here with white? How do you win? Here it is. Ready? Boom. Attacking the rook. And we see that this side, because the rook was on the b file, is too short. So the rook cannot stay any meaningful. And no matter where it goes, white will go here next and wins. Unless, of course, he takes and he will queen. And queen wins against rook. It takes some time, but among humans it's very easy. So this is winning. This trick is very typical, and of course you have this check. So remember this ending. With the B file, it's 1. With the A file, it's a draw. And remember the trick Polina pulled with B4. That was cool. Thank you for watching. This was GM Talks with another Endgame Masterclass that will lead to a lot of videos in the long run.